Good evening and welcome to our Ogden City Council meeting for August 21st, 2018. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present today. We appreciate you also being present. It's always good to look out in the audience and see some scouts, and these scouts are in uniform, so you look sharp. I'll turn the time to Vice Chair Nadolski to introduce the pledge.
Thank you, Chair Heyer. Today we have Frankie Smith from Troop 12 who's going to lead us in the pledge.
He said he was just a teeny bit nervous, but
He looked pretty confident when I talked to him.
Please rise. Please repeat with me at the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Audience may be seated.
Thank you. Before you go, why don't you bring your other scout up, tell us who you are and why you came today.
We are from the Lorne Far 4th Ward Stake. We are Troop 12. We are here to pass off our communications and citizenship in the community merit badges.
Great. Thank you. You have anything else you want to say? Okay. Good job with the pledge. Appreciate you helping us tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
It's noted that Troop 12 is one of the oldest troops in that area. When I was in there, it was my troop that I went to, and so.
You and Baden kind of started that together, didn't you?
You're right, we did. But it is one of the oldest troops in the council there.
Good. Thanks for noting that. All right. If you would please join us for a moment of silence. Thank you. Now we have the next item is our approval of minutes. The first is for the regular meeting of May 15th, 2018. Councilmember Choberka.
Yes, Chair. I have read those minutes and made some notes to the recorder, and they're correct to my recollection.
Okay, and then the joint work session of May 15th, 2018. Councilmember Lopez.
Yes, Chair Heyer, they are correct to the best of my recollection.
And then the work session of May 22nd, 2018, Councilmember Stevens.
Yes, sir, correct, Chair.
And work session of May 29th, 2018, Councilmember White.
Yes, Chair, those are correct, and I propose that we approve of the minutes.
Second.
That's with those corrections that Councilmember Choberka mentioned, right? Okay, this is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next item is the reports from the Planning Commission, the 2017 Culinary Water Master Plan.
Chair, Justin will be beginning and introducing our featured guest.
All right.
Mr. Water himself.
Welcome.
Chair Heyer, members of the council, Mayor Caldwell, Mr. Johnson, and council staff, thank you for letting us come here tonight. And we've been working hard this past year in updating our culinary water master plan. And as many of you may remember from last time, we worked with Cliff Linford with Sunrise Engineering. And so I'm going to turn the time over to Cliff to give you a synopsis of our report.
Thank you, Justin. I do appreciate the opportunity to present on your water master plan. I really can't believe it's been 8 years since we did the original master plan, and here we are again. I would like to take the opportunity to thank Jay, the Public Works staff, Justin, Taylor, Kenton, for all the hard work that they put into helping me update this water master plan. Without them, it wouldn't be possible to put this together. Our goal here today is to go over what has changed since the 2010 master plan with regards to source, storage, and distribution in the system. Also give you an update on the methods and assumptions that we've used in the master plan to project out the demand and storage of the facilities. We also want to go over the new conclusions and recommendations for the master plan with regards to capital improvement projects. First, I'd like to highlight the major changes that we've had in the water system. I'd like to commend the city and staff for all the projects that they have done in the last 8 years. There's been major improvements with source, storage, and distribution system. Just wanted to highlight some of the major improvements. One of the biggest projects that has taken place is redoing the water treatment plant. That facility was at the end of its useful life, and we were able to construct and build a new state-of-the-art treatment facility that is producing very high-quality water. We've also updated added a number of storage facilities to the system. The north storage facility that helps the north part of the system. We've also added the 36th Street storage reservoir that helps some of the southeast area portion of the system. And we've rehabilitated the 23rd Street reservoirs, which is the bulk of the storage for the water system. So there's been major improvements. Also, a number of large transmission lines have been replaced and added into the system. That has really helped the redundancy of the system and be able to move water back and forth, so we do not have any more large outages that we had similar to 2008 and 2009 in the north storage area. One of the major changes from the 2010 master plan to the 2017 master plan is the Governor's Office of Planning and Budgeting has changed their projections for the area. Back in 2010, they had more of a straight line projection with the population going to 116,000 by the year 2050. They have since reevaluated that and kind of looked more at when cities start hitting their build out and there's not much area to grow. And in my opinion, they've become more accurate on their population projections, and it decreased in 2015 from the 116,000 to 105,000 in population. As you can see on the curves, that basically the curve flattens from the year 2030 to the year 2050, which would be more similar to Ogden City kind of hitting their build out. And how this affected the master plan is primarily within regards to source and demand production. The biggest change was obviously in the year 2050. In the previous master plan in 2010, the projected peak day demand was 49.2 million gallons per day is what the system would need to produce to keep up with system demands. With the updated projections being lowered, this has lowered to 45.9 million gallons per day, which we'll see later affect some of the projects that we had projected in the 2010 master plan compared to the 2018 master plan. Separate from the population projections, as we've looked at the historical production of the sources, we've seen a reduction in source produced. What's important to note is it's not a reduction in water used by the customers, it's actually a reduction in source being produced. The difference being the customers are still using the same amount of water, and we've seen an increase in population over the 8 years. However, we're producing less and less water. This can be related to multiple projects that we've done on pipeline replacements. The large transmission lines that have been replaced, as we were replacing the pipelines, numerous leaks were discovered, and we were able to put new pipe in and stop these leaks. As you can see, to kind of get a better feel for how much water we've saved in just pipeline replacement projects alone, is it equates to 584 million gallons per year of water saved. And to get a better understanding of costs of that, if we were to purchase that water on the open market today, that would cost us over $1 million on the open market. So it's seen a significant efficiencies in the water system with the pipeline replacement projects that we've completed. As you can see, that's over 1 million gallons per day that's being saved. And even more importantly, on a peak day projection, with the additional storage that we've added, we've seen our peak day drop from 35 million gallons per day down to 28 million gallons per day, which allows us to have a lot more efficiency in the system and move water around as needed.
That was all from leaking pipes, huh?
Most of it's from leaking pipes, yes.
Wow.
A good example of that was when we were doing the water treatment plant. There's a 36-inch water line behind the treatment plant that we had to replace due to changes in changes in pressure. There was a large leak on that line that no one ever knew about. It was right there near the river and discharging directly into the river, so it would never surface. No one ever knew it was there. As we made that transition from the old pipeline to the new pipeline, they actually had to increase the flow to the river because we cut down our contribution to the river.
The delta in the CFS that they had to correct for?
Roughly 3 MGD, 2 to 3 MGD they had to add up. Yep.
How does that equate to cubic feet per second? Do you know?
Not off the top of my head, no. But it was significant, and we can.
I always wondered, so I was curious.
And so there was a number of major leaks that were found and discovered and replaced. And the results of those two items, of the population being slightly less and also reduction of the historical produced water, is from in the 2010 master plan, we are predicting a shortage of water by the year 2050, i.e. we need new source. In the 2017 master plan, by the year 2050, we're actually at capacity. So we were able to take out a capital improvement project with those changes. Another significant change from the 2010 master plan to this master plan is these demand areas were very critical in the 2010 master plan. As you can see, there were 3 main zones, Zone A, B, and C. And different areas, different sources were able to convey water to those areas. For example, Area A, the southeast portion of the city, is directly Weber Basin water, and we were unable to get any water produced by Ogden City into that zone. Same with Area C. That was historically all been Weber Basin water, and none of Ogden City's water could be conveyed into those zones. With the addition of the transmission lines that have been added and some booster stations that have been added as well, we are now able to convey water from Area B to Area A to B, and B to C, and vice versa. This gives the system a lot more flexibility than it had in the past. If any of the major transmission lines go down, we have a break. We now have a method to move water around to keep residents and customers in service. If the water system was new today, we really wouldn't have very many capital improvement projects in regard to source. However, the system is aging, it's fairly old. Most of the capital improvement projects that we have that are source projects are basically replacing existing infrastructure as it ends its useful life. There's 4 wells up at the Pineview well field that during the study period that we recommend being replaced. 2 wells in the immediate future within the next 5 years, and the other 2 wells as they age and become older in the 30 or 40 year master plan. The other project that is source related is to revitalize the airport well. Which is an old well that has not been in production historically over the last 10-15 years, but it is a good source of water if we revitalize it to the airport area, which currently just has Weber Basin water as its source. So those are basically the main projects that we have programmed in the master plan, the current master plan for source. The total cost on those projects is just over $11 million in today's dollars. As I mentioned before, we had a number of storage projects over the last 8 years that has really put us in excellent shape from a capacity standpoint. The global analysis on the storage on the system shows that we actually have a surplus of storage in the system. The 2050 storage requirement by the Division of Drinking Water Requirements was roughly 35 million gallons, and we have currently 72 million gallons in the system. This actually gives the system a lot more flexibility as well. If a source goes down, we have more capacity in our storage to keep everybody in service, and it allows our peak day volume to be quite a bit lower than what the state is projecting. As you can see in those previous numbers, we were quite a bit different on a peak day demand basis versus what we had historically. So it gives us a lot of flexibility.
So that's 72.2. How many days, if we didn't have a drop going in, how long would that last our city?
About 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
The typical calculation for the 34 million gallons is 1 day of peak day demand for the system. So your system, you'll have roughly about 2 days of a peak day demand scenario, which would be a hot summer day in the summer. During the winter, you'd have a couple of weeks worth of storage.
Great.
From a local standpoint, obviously each reservoir can't serve the entire city. It serves its own geographic region. From a local standpoint, we looked at each reservoir individually and which areas that it serves and did an analysis on those areas as well. And the city is actually in very good shape from a local standpoint in every area except Area G and Area H on that map. And those areas are areas that have been served historically by Weber Basin, and they have storage to provide for those areas. Historically, wholesale providers provided storage for the areas that they provided water to. However, the laws and rules have changed for wholesale providers, so in the future, Ogden City will need to look at providing their own storage for those areas. Area G won't take much effort. It's basically repiping and bringing some lines across Harrison Boulevard to use the storage that we have in 46th Street Reservoir. Area H is the airport area, and there's a couple of projects that we have outlined to help with storage in that area. The biggest one is a booster station that will allow us to pump water from our area C into area H. And that will allow us to use the storage, excess storage that we have in other facilities. And very similar to the source, the storage projects associated, capital improvement projects associated with storage are primarily replacement projects. Currently, the 46th Street reservoirs have a number of leaks in them, and one of the reservoirs are offline currently. We are looking to rehab those reservoirs, but in the event that the rehab fails, we've programmed in place to add 2.5 million gallons of storage in the 46th Street area. Basically replace the existing reservoirs that we have due to the age of the old concrete reservoirs in that area. The other two projects, as I mentioned before, are for Area G and mainly just interconnecting piping to access the storage that we have. The largest portion of any water system is obviously its distribution system, and Ogden City has one of the largest distribution systems in the state. They have a total of 371 miles of pipeline buried underground to convey the water to the customers that they need. To get a better understanding, that is basically a pipeline from here to Las Vegas. It is a large undertaking for staff to keep the water system up to date, to keep all the pipelines functioning, repair the leaks, and to get also better understanding the size of it. If we were to replace all the pipelines in today's dollars, the asset would be worth over $500 million and $600 million worth of replacement to replace the existing water system. It's also important to note, as you see this chart or graph by diameter, that over half the water system is 6 inches in diameter or less. Currently, the Division of Drinking Water does not allow any pipelines to be installed that is under 8 inches in diameter. So we have a number of pipelines that are undersized in the system currently today. In addition to being undersized, the pipelines are as Ogden City is one of the older cities, is an older system. The life expectancy of a water main is roughly 100 years. And by the end of the study period in 2060, 55% of the system will be over 100 years old, which is a lot of repairs and replacements that will need to take place in this study period and in this master plan. And in order to put a pipeline replacement program together for the city, we looked at a number of publications and used the pipe survival curve of ductile iron and cast iron pipe because it's the bulk of the material in your water system. This study looked at 4 communities across the U.S., LA, Boston, Philadelphia, and Fort Worth, Texas, and looked at the historical replacement of their water lines, when the lines had failed, and at what age they had failed in. We put an average of the 4 systems together and called it Ogden City's pipe survivability curve. Using this probability curve, we put a statistical model together based on the age of the system and when pipelines should be replaced based on this curve. What we found out in the study period that we would need to replace over 815,000 lineal feet of pipe in the system to keep the system currently as is. This is not getting ahead of the curve. This is not replacing 2-3% of the system to get ahead of where we're at. This is replacing roughly 1% of the system per year, which in 100 years will be in the exact same situation we are at today. Unfortunately, the cost associated with replacing water lines is expensive. As you can see on those numbers, we were projecting $5.7 million per year in just water line replacement projects to keep the system in its current state. In addition, we put together a chart to show how inflation affects those numbers. As we are coming to the end of the last master plan cycle, a lot of the projects that we had programmed in 2010 were now becoming over budget. The dollar amounts that we had programmed were not enough to do the replacements in today's dollars. In looking at the historical inflation cost of construction, it's about 3% per year. So we also included a 3% inflation rate. And to better understand that, the $5.7 million per year in today's dollars, that same lineal foot of pipe at the end of the study period will be $16 million per year, which is something the city definitely needs to be aware of as it puts together its pipeline replacement program. So in summary, on the capital improvement projects, we had $10 million worth of source projects, $4 million of storage projects, and a whole lot of distribution projects on pipeline replacement. We broke it up into a number of categories on the pipeline replacement projects. That we've identified needs in the city from fire flow and pressure standpoints. Those who took the highest priority in the capital improvement project list to bring the system up to current drinking water standards. We also spent a considerable amount of time analyzing the existing leaks in the system, which pipelines are not failing based on statistics, but are failing today based on the number of leaks that Kenton's crews have to deal with on a daily basis. So on the distribution, fire flow, and pressure projects, they were a total of $23 million. On leak projects that have been currently identified, it totaled $72 million. And then we had $135 million worth of improvements based on the statistical model of pipeline survivability. Understanding as the system ages, we will get more and more leaks in the system. In putting together our 5 and 10 years lists, we met with the city and staff and kind of put together the highest needs on the priorities. As mentioned previously, the 46th Street tanks, if the rehabilitation that we're currently trying to do on the tanks is unsuccessful, that'll be needed replaced right away in the 5-year plan. We also need to replace 2 wells up at Pineview Reservoir. 2 of them are seeing significant decrease in their production. They'll need to be replaced right away in the 5-year plan. And then we'll have a number of distribution and fire flow and pipeline projects in the 5-year plan. Again, on the pipeline and distribution projects, we are targeting that $5.7 million per year to meet that 1.2% replacement of the city. In the 5 to 10 year projects, we wanted to do the 24-inch track line extension project to convey more water to the west side of the West Industrial area. We also want to complete those small storage projects. Currently, the need's not super high for those, why we push them off in the 5 to 10 year plan, because Weber Basin does have storage available for it, but we will need to transition that over from Weber Basin to us. And then we'll start into, again, the pipeline replacement projects. In the 10 to 40 year plan, we do have to replace 2 more wells, probably in around 20 to 30 years up at Pineview Reservoir. We'll also need to look at the Ogden Canyon 36-inch line within that time period. In the last 8 years, we did replace the 24-inch line that came down the canyon that had a number of significant leaks on it. We thought we were going to have to do the 36-inch line within a 5-year time period. However, the city has done an extensive study on that line, and it was in better shape than we had anticipated. So we pushed that off into the 30, 40-year time frame.
So that cost of inflation reflects the full 40 year?
Correct. Yes, as you can see the cost in 2016 dollars, then cost with inflation is where we've got it programmed in the master plan. As you can see, it's changes, especially in the 10 to 40 year. In today's dollars, is totaled $190 million. With inflation, that increases to $356 million. As you can see, any project that you put off today costs you more later down the road because the need does not go away. And it really, your system, from where I started on the system, 10 years ago, has seen significant improvements. I know these dollar amounts are large and can seem overwhelming, but the system is in really remarkably good shape with the projects that we've done over the last 10 years. If it was new, it would be an A-plus system in the state. The biggest problem with the system is it's old, it's aging, and it's going to take a significant increase in dollars to keep the system running. I appreciate your time and would love to answer any questions that the council has.
Any questions for Mr. Linford? I have one. This 24-inch pipe that going out west, is there that much of a need for water out there? I mean, one of our main transmission lines down the canyon is 24 inches. It seems like, I don't know, just my logic says, I don't know why we'd need that big a pipe there, but.
There's a lot of large water users out west, and coming down the canyon, you actually have a 24 and 36 inch coming down the canyon, and the combination of those two is 35 million gallons per day. A 24 inch by itself is only about 8 million gallons per day, so the bulk of it is actually in the 36 inch line, in the bigger pipe.
That was also one of the areas we looked at and determined that if we had a large water consumer show up in the West Ogden or Ogden City Industrial Park, we wouldn't be able to meet their demand, and so that would help us to be able to meet that demand.
What kind of businesses would use lots of water? I mean, I think of car washes and stuff like that, but
so like the example I would be is like a Fresenius. They make medical devices, so it could be a lot of different businesses like that.
So that actually gets to my question that I was going to ask was, because the whole model is based on resident growth. If we have unexpected or unanticipated growth in commercial or manufacturing, or industrial, how would this plan be able to adjust to account for that unanticipated growth?
That's a very good question. Most of the sizing of the pipelines actually doesn't have to do with growth or residential connections. The sizing of the pipelines controls is fire flow related. Typically, the area, if it can meet a 3,000 gallon per minute fire flow, would be able to handle any large customer coming in. The exceptions to that would be obviously areas where we don't have a lot of looping in the system. There definitely could be development that come in that would require significant improvements into the infrastructure. Unfortunately, we're unable to project where those would come in at to be able to adequately put it into a capital improvement program.
You mentioned the 46th Street tank. You're refurbishing that one. When will you know whether that would be successful?
We're working on it right now. We're actually having our own city water crews go up there and do that work. And so once that's done, we'll be filling it up, and then we'll be able to see if it's holding water and how long it's holding water for. So we should know, I'm guessing, later this fall on how that's doing.
So are you putting the lining in the tank, or how are you?
Well, we can't. The way the bottom of that tank is, we can't actually line it. So it's not a liner per se, but it is kind of I guess a better way would be to say like an epoxy, like a coating would be going on it. But it isn't like a mesh liner that we're putting in the bottom like we have on our 23rd Street reservoirs.
It's not the Gorilla Tape, though. They tried that already. It didn't work.
Didn't work.
But if it fails, then what action would we have to take if we had to replace that tank?
So if it fails, we'd be back to where we are before previous to July or June, and that would be, we probably wouldn't have any water in that tank because we're losing it almost as quickly as we're putting it in. We'd be losing hundreds of thousands of gallons a day. So we would take that out of service, and then we would actually look to have to replace that up on the hillside.
And the people, residents in that area, they would receive their water from Weber Basin or from Ogden City?
Actually, it could be a combination. So one of the improvements that Mr. Linford talked about that we've done is that we built the 36th Street Reservoir and had a booster station there, and then we connected it with a 24-inch pipeline into the system that pumps up to these 46th Street reservoirs. There's 2 reservoirs up there. So having that in place, we'll be able to keep that part of the city in water if that tank goes down and doesn't work. And so that's how we've been able to do it now. So if there is issues that we have to take that other tank out of service, we've also worked and have worked towards having that booster station at 36th Street be able to supply water even if we lose a tank. And so we're working through some elevation issues and valving issues to make that be possible as well.
And what's the cost of refurbishing that, the work we're going through, and what would be the cost if we had to replace the tank?
Refurbishing it, I want to say, Kenton, is that a couple $100,000? Was it lower? Okay, so it was $20,000 is what they're trying to do right now on epoxying that tank. Replacing that tank.
Replacing that tank is actually fairly difficult due to the location that it's on, up on the hillside, fairly steep. There's not a good location just to put a tank adjacent to it. So we'd actually there's 2 reservoirs up at 46th Street, both 1 million gallons apiece. Unfortunately, in order to replace the older tank that's failing right now, we'd have to replace the other tank as well to put 2.5 million gallons up at that site. So the total cost is $3.2 million to replace that storage up on 46th Street.
I vote for 20,000.
Yeah, I
Slight
like
increase.
20,000.
And Councilmember Nadolski, earlier you had a question about how many cubic feet per second is in 1 million gallon.
Scratching that out
And
somewhere.
so that is approximately 1.5 cubic feet per second equals 1 MGD.
Hoping one of you smart math people were doing that.
Just not in my head.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Look for, let's see, this is an item we would like to receive public input on. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council regarding this item, now would be the time. Well, I'm just looking at the scouts, so, okay. I'll look for a motion to, well, I guess this isn't a public hearing, so, council members, what is your desire?
Chair Heyer, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2018-12.
I second it.
Have a motion by Vice Chair Nadolski, seconded by Councilmember Stevens, to adopt resolution 2018-12. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye. That passes. Next item is a public hearing.
Mr. Chair, if the scouts needed the information that was presented this evening, would they go online to our council Facebook or?
All the things that they would get on our website, it would be the packet that we have with the staff comments. If they wanted the information from the presentations, I don't know where they'd get that.
We could rewatch it on Facebook Live.
You can watch it on Facebook. It will be posted right away. So you could even see yourself giving the pledge, so it'll be great. Okay. The next item is public hearing, fiscal year 2019 to 2023 capital improvement plan amendments concerning the water projects.
Chair Taylor will be presenting this. He put on his fancy suit, so he would be presentable.
Welcome. We're glad you're with us.
Glad to be here. Thank you, Chair Heyer, members of the council, Mayor Caldwell, and Mr. Johnson. We appreciate the opportunity to be here before you tonight. A lot of interesting information came out as part of the Water Master Plan. Instead of rehashing all of that, what I will do is say that the first item that we're talking about, the capital improvement brief that we're looking to update, are improvements to W015, which is basically it takes the master plan items that we went through, and we're adding some language in to ensure that we can adopt the remainder of those projects and get those done with this CIP that we've proposed before you. So it does include some language in there from Source, which you heard Mr. Linford go over in quite a lot of detail. And the other one we talked about was storage facilities. So that was language that we felt was vague before, and we wanted to make sure that got included. So were there any questions on that one?
Any questions for Taylor? Okay, thank you.
The other one we had was W036, and that includes the 36-inch line in the canyon. We've had the interesting opportunity as people have built houses up the canyon. For whatever reason, they've decided to build some really close to that 36-inch water line. Also, we've had some leach fields that people have tried to put right on top of that transmission line. And so we've been able to go up and catch them kind of as they've been going. But we looked for opportunities that when we need to go up and start maintaining that line, doing some other items of that sort, that there may be opportunities to purchase property to try and protect our line, as that is one of the main feeds down into the city. And so we felt that it would be a good idea to have something in that CIP that would allow us to purchase property to definitely protect that line that comes down. And so those were the changes that were made as part of 036. Any questions on that one?
Any questions on this one? I have a question about if you're living in the canyon and you want to do a building project, certainly it's not in the city, so they're getting a building permit from the county. Does the county have good records about where our stuff is? And
so the reason I think we got into a problem in the first place, they didn't have great records, but there's kind of twofold. You have the health department that's supposed to be reviewing, for instance, septic tanks and leach fields going in. And then on top of that, you have the Weber County that's supposed to be evaluating new building permits that are coming in. Recently, in some coordination efforts, we have been able to share with them that we do, in fact, have a water line there, and it is very particularly important to us. And so they have started to keep us in the loop as people are up there digging, performing work, or applying for a building permit. So it's just more of they're supposed to be coordinating with us in those instances.
So the communication has been a problem, and it's better now.
It is much better now.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Okay, that's all for me.
All right, thank you. All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak regarding this capital improvement plan amendment, now would be the time. Okay, I see no movement. I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Chair, I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Nadolski, seconded by Councilmember White to close the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I'll look for a motion on the resolution.
Chair Heyer, I'll make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2018-25 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Nadolski, seconded by Councilmember Blair, to adopt ordinance 2018-25. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez? Aye. Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye. That also passes. Next item is public comment. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding concerns or ideas on any topic. Anyone wish to speak to the council tonight? There's a mass exodus going on. If you're watching at home, you're not seeing this. We're now alone.
Not quite.
Almost.
They could be on TV. What a chance.
Yeah. So we will move past that to comments from the mayor.
I have a couple of quick comments. A lot has been said in a whole bunch of different forms about the growth projections, what's going to happen in the next 30 years, our doubling of the population. more in terms of transportation and how we move products and goods and people around, but one of the things that doesn't come up a lot is water. So this being the water night, I want to just call out a couple of people. Mark Stratford, who's quietly sitting in the back trying to mind his own business, is probably one of the best water attorneys in the state, and he lends his expertise to the Utah League of Cities and Towns and a whole bunch of other agencies, and we are very, very lucky to have Mark on our bench and fighting for water rights as we have them around Ogden City. I'm sad all these guys left because we do have some amazing people with Jay in the Public Works and the people that presented. I feel less anxiety about this, which should be one of the most anxious things that we're looking at, than just about anything else. We really do have a great team looking at water issues, and it's something you don't see or think about. You hit the tap, expect it to turn on, water to come through, it to be clean, safe, everything else. But there's a tremendous amount of work that goes on behind the scenes, especially with the infrastructure we have. That was interesting. I didn't know we had 371 miles of pipe in this small community that these guys maintain. And I've been on a couple of those leak repair groups that go out in the middle of winter when it's the dark of night and 5 degrees and water's freezing, and these guys jump into these deep, dark holes into the water and fix it up and make sure that everybody gets to wake up and have a hot shower on Christmas morning and water to drink and everything else. These guys do a great job, and we're very, very lucky to have them. I'd say we have some of the best people in the entire state on that. So we can sleep easy knowing that we've got really some of the best in the state.
Thanks, Mayor.
Can I add to his comments, Chair Hire?
Now it's your turn.
I wasn't going to say anything, but when you said that, I want to share a story, and I wish they were here, but when we had our annual Partners Tournament, Partners for Success Tournament, I was out on the course, and I met so many partners that I'd never met before. But one guy came to me and introduced himself to me and said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm with the Ogden City Council." And he goes, "Oh, you have the best engineers in the state, hands down, period." He was so adamant. So it's not just you. Other people are taking notice, and they deserve the recognition. And I fully agree. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Any other comments, council members?
When I started on the council, one of the main responsibilities at that time was to repair and fix our water system. We just been band-aiding it so often that the band-aids were starting to fall off, and so we went ahead and constructed a plan to do some improvements, and especially that 24-inch pipe coming down the canyon, and that was a major responsibility, and Chair Hire and I went up and looked at it on several occasions, but we
in the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night, and when they were moving the dirt around. But today we have one of the best waters in the state, and that's contributed to the hard work of our administration and staff in conducting that. And then we went ahead and built that addition or the new plant up there, and that has added a considerable amount of purity to the water that we have. And so it's, it's a continual process, but we have a system now that we can cultivate or travel water from one end to the other end of the city, from going from north to south. And so,
yeah, our citizens, we just don't even think about stuff that's in the ground, and it's nice that we've got such competent people that make sure it works every day. That's good.
And the thing is that we looked at that area out by the airport, and if we have a major business move in that needs a lot of water, if we wait until they move in and we start saying, well, we need to plan for it, if we plan today, then when they move in, we'll be ready to supply the water to them.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I just wanted to make sure everybody knew about the Echo celebration coming up this Saturday. It's the 125th anniversary, and the whole street will be closed on Jefferson Avenue and 26th Street there, and it should be a really fun event.
Hey, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Nadolski, seconded by Councilmember White to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I was thinking nobody wanted to go for a second there. Okay, well, we'll get ready to go for our next meeting. Yeah, okay. Welcome all for our August 21st, 2018 Special Redevelopment Agency meeting. Let the roll call reflect that all board members are present. And I'll entertain a motion from Vice Chair Nadolski first off.
Chair Heyer, make a motion that we amend the agenda to move item number 5, comments from the executive director and the board members, to follow item number 2 and to precede item number 3.
Okay, and to note that we have no item number 4. Okay. I will look for, well, we do have a second. Okay. Vice Chair Nadolski made the motion and Board Member White made the second to amend the agenda. All in favor? Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay. The next item is public comments, and I see no public. So I think we can go to item number 5, which is comments from the executive director.
Nothing in this time, thank you.
And comments from board members. Okay. We'll move back up to item 3, consideration of adjourning into a closed executive session. I'll look for a motion.
Chair Heyer, I will make a motion that we adjourn into a closed executive session for the purposes outlined in the agenda.
Second.
A motion from Board Member Blair, seconded by Board Member Lopez, to move into a closed executive session. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Lopez. Board Member Stevens.
Aye.
Board Member White.
Aye.
Board Member Blair.
Aye.
Board Member Chuburka.
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski.
Aye.
Chair Heyer.
Aye. That passes. And just for the record, we will adjourn from the other room. And so that is a wrap for tonight.
Thank you all.